workers' comp. The purpose of their rewards program is to offer free training to employees in many different facets while reducing risk and increasing productivity. This is done in collaboration with department heads, school and staff members. Examples of things that we have done this past year include back injury prevention, roof self-inspections, snow and ice removal best practices, and discrimination prevention. To give you an example of what the rewards have been in past years, in 2016 we were rewarded $8,093. In 2017 we were awarded $18,774, and that was due to the increase in staff. In 2018 it is now at $27,082.
And what will that be used for?
So it comes back as a credit towards the town.
Excellent.
So I believe it just goes into the general fund.
Hey, every little bit helps,
Right.
especially thanks to the state. But, okay, any comments on that?
Thank you, Elaine.
Well, I also would like to mention the staff member Carrie Poudrier in the Selectmen's office played a big part in having these results. If it weren't for her and her determination to get a greater reward than last year, we wouldn't have had these results. And it's also in cooperation with the department heads that follow through.
Very good.
Were you going to speak to the workers' compensation prevention grant of $644?
No, that's Dave.
Dave.
Good evening. Yeah, so we recently received a couple of Maya grants as well. The one being a freeze-up prevention grant for $1,200, and that was used to purchase 3 thermal imaging cameras, which plug into our smartphones, and we can use to detect areas during the cold weather, cold air infiltration, to prevent freeze-ups, and it can also be used in the summer to see warm air infiltration. So this would be a good utility to have. And the second grant we recently received was for $644, and that was for workers' compensation, and that was used to purchase a magnet and a lever bar to assist us in lifting either manholes or storm grates to prevent back injuries.
And were these things that we specifically applied for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you end up having to write up the grants?
I do not. Elaine helps with that. I shouldn't say.
Because I just know
Elaine does it.
just from the fire department's aspect, I know how much work goes into the grant writing. So
Yes,
I wanted to
no.
make sure that who's ever helping also gets the.
Elaine and her staff can take credit for that. They ask us what would be useful looking through, but they do all the back work.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that brings us close enough to 7:10. So let's go ahead and do the poll hearing, please. Now we'll go with you. If you just state your name and who you're representing into the microphone.
Good evening, my name is Donna Rosa. I'm here from Eversource Energy. I'm here for the poll petition. You want me to start of the reason why we're installing the pole?
Okay.
Want me to give you an explanation?
Can we turn, yeah, please, can we turn off the fan? Please?
Okay, sorry.
Because the young lady's speaking fairly softly, and
I'm sorry.
I don't want to
Okay.
make you shout.
That's better. Okay. All right. I am covering for Karen Ray, who is the rights representative for the Plymouth location. Eversource Energy will be installing 2 poles on High Street west of Brook. The stub pole will be installed on the north side of High Street, and this is in order to support the pole on the opposite side of the street from leaning. The other pole that's being installed on the south side of the street is to eliminate the low wire condition. And that is the reason for the 2 poles that are being installed. And this is to provide service also for the customer at 86 High Street.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering, was exactly where on High Street.
Yeah.
Knew where it was.
He's on High Street and Brook Street.
Yep. And because the maps are in our package. Anybody has any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
I always ask this question. So the abutters were notified?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have motion made and seconded to approve the 2 new poles. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 5-0. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, now we go back to the grants. Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle and company, come on down.
Mr. Chairman, shall we share the microphone here?
Yes.
We're not going to share the chair.
We can get you another chair.
So only one microphone. So my name is Jesse Boyle with Carver Fire Department. I'm joined by Gary Keith of FM Global Insurance Company. One of the purposes of my role as Assistant Deputy Chief is to procure grants for the fire department. We rely heavily on grants, as we all know, with Carver Fire. And I think the chief can give a more specific number, but we've been successful in achieving over $1 million in grants in the last 10 to 12 years or so. This is an ongoing campaign for us. It's not something that'll ever go away. As a matter of fact, during my interview process and all that went through the process for this position, we had to write a mock grant to submit to see who was really going to be able to hopefully be successful with that. So we had learned about the FM Global grant, something that we had been successful with a few years back. And so FM Global is an insurance company that really specializes in fire protection. And there are 3 basic areas that they issue their grants in. Arson prevention and investigation, public education, and then pre-fire planning, which is something that we've had an existing pre-fire plan around for quite a while. It consisted of some paper documents and binders. It was really well read by the dispatchers and by the chief and by the operations staff, but it wasn't accessible out in the field so much. It wasn't accessible for the over 80 members of the fire department. So we started to do some research into what project we could really get to be something that could really take us to another level at Carver Fire. It seemed apparent that we really needed to head in that direction. We're really strong as far as our public education. We're joined by Deputy Germain in the room tonight, who was our arson investigator, and worked closely with the State Fire Marshal's office as far as that as well. So it seemed like that was the next logical step for us to get into that. And as a lot of things, when I go to the chief's office and come up with an idea, he said, all right, here you go. And this has been one that I really opened up a big one on this. The world of pre-fire planning is really endless. So essentially what it is a pre-fire plan is just that. It's a series of surveys and information collected for all sorts of buildings throughout town, primarily commercial, some of the higher hazard areas. And we take all that information, fire suppression systems, door locks, hazards inside the building, where they are, where they're located, emergency contact information. We compile all that information and we now have it on an electronic database. We can see up here on the screen that Craig has put up there for us. This is essentially the delivery method that we're able to get it out to our field. So we already have an existing program called I Am Responding that we use for our firefighters to announce when they're responding to a call. Within this software system, which is a web-based system, it also has the ability to display maps. So we've had this ability within the stations and within our command vehicles, but in order to take this to the next level, we needed to get this information out to the trucks, out to our fire trucks out on the road, the first responding vehicles. So with I Am Responding already having this platform, we needed to actually have the actual hardware. So what we applied for with the grant, and we were successful in achieving, were several iPads for our frontline response vehicles, all the associated hardware that goes with it, the brackets, the protective cases, because firefighters are really gentle with things. The mounting hardware to attach it to the trucks. That has been really where we're at right now. So we have all the hardware, it's still coming in. We still have a few mounting pieces that we have to get in order to get them installed in the trucks. And with just a few clicks of the pad on the iPad, and Craig's going to demonstrate it on the screen up here, the company officer, be it a captain or lieutenant or a command officer or even a firefighter in the truck, can click on different things throughout this screen. They can see where the nearest water supply is. So for instance, looking right here at Carver Square, we can see Carver Square Boulevard. Chief, want to bring it up to the new school? So we've been working very closely with Dave Siedentoff and many of the people involved with PMA and CTA construction over at the school with getting a really strong pre-fire plan set up over there. So all these icons on here, when you touch them, it indicates some different information. The yellow dots, the yellow squares rather, are hydrants. The blue water drop is our water supply. Our fire alarm control panel, sprinkler access points. You can see the document icon that actually has the actual pre-fire plan. Chief, if you could click on that. So it's just a few mouse clicks, you're in there, you can open up that pre-fire plan, and all of that pertinent information is right there at your fingertips. All this information, all this data, right there available. No need to call dispatch. It's right at our fingertips. And beyond that, this information is here, but it also gets us out in the field, and we're doing this investigative work on a regular basis, getting our firefighters out there and getting them familiar with that. Am I over my time yet, Mr. Chairman? Yes, okay.
You're doing fine.
Take it away from the chief, so don't worry.
But he's counting it down too. So again, this is a system that we've had in place for a while, but we didn't have the means to get it out into the field. And now we have that mounted in our trucks, or we will shortly, to have it fully implemented. And it's just something that really, it's worth its weight in gold to have this information out there. Gary, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chief. Just quickly, again, Gary Keith, FM Global in Norwood, Massachusetts. We're headquartered in Johnston, Rhode Island, and the Chief's done a great job of explaining the rationale for what they do with this system. From FM Global standpoint, there is no correlation to the amount of insured property in any one community when we offer up these grants. It's strictly a program we have in place to help with the efforts of the fire service, to help improve the resources they have available. And we know time and time again, particularly with pre-fire planning, that information not only helps to reduce the loss cost should an incident occur, but it keeps the firefighters safer, and that is our ultimate objective. The only other point I want to stress is this is a highly competitive grant program that we have. We get hundreds and hundreds of applications every year, not only within the U.S. and Canada, but internationally as well. So I think it really speaks well to the efforts of Chief Weston and Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle that they were able to successfully achieve this grant, and that should be so noted. So they've already cashed the check, which is good, and have the hardware, but I did want to bring along a plaque that at least provides some formal recognition of the grant program. So I'll turn that over to the Chief now.
Outstanding.
That's right, thank you. Yeah. Let's get a picture. Yeah. I'll turn this on as well.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Great. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Thanks.
One more, guys.
One more, guys.
Okay.
This one's for the press. This one you gotta smile pretty.
Thank you. All right.
There you go.
Good stuff. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Congratulations. That's a good speaker.
Yeah,
Just so you know. Peace.
Okay, Chief, since Assistant Deputy Chief took most of your time, we'll see how quickly you
Good.
can
I
go.
want to keep Mr. Walsh awake back there. I know he gets a little cranky as the night goes on, and keep Chief Dufilly on time, so I'm going to make it happen.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I like the inter-service cooperation.
There's plenty of it.
And I know Tom likes to have like rabbit-like stuff too.
He gets grumpy. Let's put it that way. Mr. Chairman, if I could just have a couple minutes just to talk about some grants that we are working on, since we are on the topic of grants. The Carver Fire Department is in the exploratory stages of starting a public safety drone program. And our team has submitted, with the help of the police chief, EMS director, emergency management director Tom Walsh, we submitted a grant to the Howard Maxim Foundation, which is a very private organization, and they awarded us a grant of $8,000. So we have that grant. Again, that check has been cashed too, so that's pretty safe. We've also received $500 from Edaville USA, and we have some future monies coming from emergency management via Tom Walsh, and the total cost of the program is about $28,000 to get it to where we feel it could be a good public safety program. All that money is planned to come from donations or grants, so we're not there where we need to be yet. There's a lot of certifications that have to come. We have to get certain staff that have certified drone pilot licenses and insurances. We've been working with Elaine, and is helping us with some insurance information. So it's still a little ways off, but I just wanted the board to know that that is a grant that we did secure, and we're going to keep looking for additional funds. The other grant, with the help of Mr. Tom Walsh in Emergency Management, we applied for a hazardous material emergency planning grant, and that was to purchase a laptop computer for hazardous material situations. That'll be about a $1,500 grant, and we're just waiting for word on that. What I really wanted to talk to you about is we applied for a large FEMA fire assistance grant for new personal protective equipment that we wear. And the personal protective equipment is considered our structural and our wildfire coats, helmets, pants, boots, hoods, and so forth. It was for $322,000. Unfortunately, we were notified last week that we were unsuccessful in getting that. So, that's a disappointment, but I wanted you to know what we were doing and what we were thinking. We had a town resident, her name is Irene Winkler. She's a professional grant writer. She's a super lady, and she assisted us with that grant, and she's assisted us getting many grants. However, we had a strong application, but it didn't score high enough to get an award. So, our current PPE gear, and I'm going to call it PPE, it's personal protective equipment, is 10 years old as of August 18th. Per NFPA, you're not allowed to wear your gear beyond 10 years. Obviously, expiration dates mean something, but in the world of safety, they do mean something to a firefighter. Obviously, we're going to continue to wear it for a little longer, but we will not be able to attend any academy courses, any academy training as they inspect your gear. So, most departments replace their gear at the 5-year mark, and most departments have 2 sets of structural and wildfire gear, and they try to separate it every 5 years so it's on a 5-year rotation. That's a goal of ours, but we also have to be frugal and understand how we're going to achieve that. So cancer right now is the leading cause of firefighter fatalities in the fire service. The firefighter's profession has the highest cancer rate of any profession anywhere. Right now we have, I'm sad to say, we have 4 active firefighters with cancer. We have 2 retired firefighters battling cancer, and we have 2 deceased firefighters that lost their battle with cancer. It affects every community. It affects every fire department across the nation. So we agreed to hold off a year. We should have purchased new gear at this past town meeting. That was the original plan, was to go to town meeting and ask for a sum of money to replace our gear. However, I didn't feel it was fiscally responsible to do that, and so we wanted to try once with a grant. The problem with FEMA is they will not let you apply for a personal protective grant unless your gear is 10 years old or older. So we couldn't even apply unless I hit the 10-year mark. So in our application, we said that we were approaching in August. So that probably didn't help us, but we had to try. We're talking something over $300,000, so we had to try. So that's why we're a year late into coming into this, okay? So I wanted to give it a try, and again, I apologize, we lost the battle. When we applied for the grant, we formed a committee of 12 officers and firefighters across the department. We do a lot with committees in our department. They've been meeting with different vendors for the last 2 months. They meet every 2 weeks. And I instructed them to have a specification ready for me by the end of August, to have what we would purchase for our new round of gear that would last us another 10 years. So I'm preparing to get that in August, okay? At that time, I'm going to approach the town administrator, the finance committee, and the capital outlay committee, to see if we can coordinate some emergency funding and how we could procure this gear. The gear takes about 3 to 4 months to manufacture. So even if we were able to procure some emergency money in, say, September, just as a number, it would take 4 months to get that. If we wait till town meeting, it's going to take 4 months beyond that. So I have to wrestle with a moral issue of liability issues, safety, and what I tried to do to get the money without having to approach the town. So again, my plan is going to be to work with the town administrator, try to work with capital outlay, and I know there are emergency funds available. See what we can do, whether we divide up that purchase, whether we try to purchase exactly what we need for the firefighters right now and wait till town meeting to approve the rest, or we try to move forward. So I don't have an answer for that. I'm just really letting you know what's going on, in all fairness. And I just ask for the board's support as we move forward. You know, we'll come forward with a clear plan on how we're going to do that. And, you know, Michael, you want to add?
And I'd just like to add that this has been in the capital plan for the fire department to replace this equipment after 10 years, so it's not a surprise. As the chief had alluded to, they had hoped that they were going to be able to secure the grant. With that, we do have our reserve fund within the capital outlay committee to allow for things like this. We've done that in the past, and once the chief gets his final analysis of the equipment, and the good news is this is on the state bid list, so we don't have to go out to bid. Once that happens, we'll be looking to convene a meeting with the Capital Outlay Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen sometime in September to see if we can move forward with acquiring this equipment, you know, as quickly as reasonably possible to move it forward prior to town meeting.
So certainly take any questions. I don't want to take any more time than you had. Or
No, I think other than speaking for myself, that I fully support moving forward as quickly as we can. As soon as we have a solution, we should move forward, and you know, the safety of the firefighters is you know, preeminent, so that just keep us posted. It sounds like you and the town administrator are working together on this, and I think that we're all here to support you and get this done.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. Thank you for...
Thank you. We'll be as fiscally responsible as we can, I promise. So,
Thank you for that.
I think it's kind of, I'm not real happy with the feds not letting you go ahead and even apply for it until it's already 10 years old, which means it's already out of date. I mean, they're not even talking to the fire service about this. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So
Seemed to make a lot of sense.
no.
Waiting until it's too old to use.
Right.
doesn't
Two different
seem to make
agencies
sense.
that, you know, just don't communicate, so.
So definitely sorry you didn't get it, but by the same token, you guys have gotten so many grants, and we paid for so much equipment through these grants that, you know, sooner or later we were bound to come up snake eyes on a grant application. I concur with Mr. Clark. Anything the board can do, you have our full support. I would ask that the town administrator keep me fully, and Mr. Clark, as well as the rest of the board, fully informed of where we're standing on that. If you need us to show up for any meetings to go ahead and help plead the cause, feel free to use us. Neither Mr. Clark or I are very shy. So we'll see what we can do for you, Chief.
Thank you. Always been very supportive. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Someone from the planning department.
We have Stephen here for the planning board?
We have anybody for the MVP grant? Michael?
Yep. Not at this time.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us about it?
I'm going to actually have, we'll have Stephen come back at another meeting to talk about
Okay.
that as well.
Okay. What about North Carver Water District?
Do you want to talk about that, President? That committee for the gap too?
So, all I can do is talk about it. Really, what I feel is the vast majority of that credit goes to your town planner, Stephen Cole, who organized that. I'm talking about the MVP grant. What am I supposed to talk about?
The GAP 2 grant?
What's that?
Gap 2.
Yeah. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program.
I can't talk about that one. Sorry. I don't know about that one.
Which one?
I know about the MVP.
That's right. That's the same one.
Okay, all right, so, I'm sorry. So the MVP grant was discovered by your town planner, Stephen Cole, who has been very good to work with. And basically what he did is he formed a group of citizens to look for ideas on how we could deal with the effects of climate change. And the state was willing to provide large sums of money for different communities that could basically get their act in gear and look for ways to deal with climate change. We brainstormed with some very creative people, and one of the things that we thought about, we have a very shortage of water supplies in this community for fire suppression, not being a community that has a lot of hydrants. So that came, I guess, to the forefront of the group, and Mrs. Hewins was on that, and she can correct me at any time. But that came to the forefront of the group, and so what we did is we identified all the areas in town that we have active water supplies that we use for fire department use. And we identified areas that are very low withdrawing areas. And so we had a lot of that work already done, and we were allowed to, through Stephen, to submit that to the state. And the state accepted that and awarded the community a grant of $196,000. That money is to be used, I believe, in the first part is to go out and do some more research on all those areas. And basically the goal is to improve those sites. What we'd like to be able to do is most of our water supplies are on private property. So one of the ideas was, could we provide a stipend to cranberry bog owners that would help us develop their water supply or protect it for fire department use? Would we be able to put up a sign that said, this is a fire department water supply? Would we be able to dig it out a little deeper for us? A lot of creative ideas like that. Could we put a well in certain part of town that we could draw water out of for emergency uses? So there's a large sum of money that can be used for that. And then I believe there's a third phase that comes after that where you can apply again to finish the project. So very creative, and again, I'm just the spokesman on that. Your planning department and some of your members of the Board of Selectmen were instrumental in that. So.
Okay, thank you. And people should know that that very large sum of money is $196,979. So that's a big grant. Terry, you want to say something?
I did. No, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know why. The reason fire protection came to the forefront in that conversation, if I remember correctly, was because in our hazard mitigation plan, that was wildfires are considered one of our highest hazards. We don't have a lot of flooding here, fortunately, because we have lots of good wetlands, and we also have sandy soil. We're not on the ocean. So that particular issue was why it came to the forefront, just so people would know. And then, as Craig said, the whole conversation just evolved, and lots of great ideas.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Talking about the earmark grant for the Council of Aging.
Did we skip the GAP 2 grant?
The GRAP one is the one we'll have Stephen talk about as well.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Gotta keep up, Ron.
Hello again. I can give you a brief overview. I may not have all the answers if you have questions regarding the GAP 2 grant, but that was a grant that was applied by the city planner, and what that is, I believe it was $58,250. That is to replace the emergency generator at the North Carver Water District. The existing generator that was installed when that facility was built is grossly oversized, to say the least.
Small city.
Yeah. So that hurts us in a few ways. It's not good to run a generator that is so oversized, and it costs us an extraordinary amount of propane, as it is propane powered. So when it does run during extended periods, we're paying for a lot of wasted energy. So this grant will replace that generator with a new one, and then what we will do with the old one is we will look at wholesale auctioning it, and that will also assist towards this money for the purchase of the new one.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Carol.
Now.
Hello.
Hello.
It's nice to
Not
be.
used to sitting on this
I was
side.
going to say it's nice to be back on this side of the table again, and not on that side of the table like I am at home. So last year, not this past April, but the April before, when the town voted to do a feasibility study for a council on aging addition or some sort of project, after that was approved at town meeting, Representative Susan Williams Gifford had the state set aside $15,000 to assist us with that project. And then, as you all know, we ultimately decided not to go forward with it at that time. We thought we would lose that money, but fortunately, the way it was written, we were able to then repurpose the money and use it to pay for some maintenance and upkeep and things like that on the existing building. So we were able to use it to, one of the things that was really good was we were able to use it to pay some overtime for some of our custodial staff to go in and do some cleaning and extra things down there that they don't normally have time to do. We use it to pay for some freezer repairs, plumbing repairs, electrical upgrades, and things like that. So we were able to take that money and use it in a good way and not have to miss out on having it.
So it was invested into the building? And
It was all used for building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the earlier designs.
Right. Also, some of the earlier designs that the architects had drawn up, that it was used to pay for that as well.
And then this year, we are going to be getting another grant from Senator Pacheco and Representative Gifford.
I
too.
wasn't aware of that.
It'll be coming towards some money.
Very good.
So,
Very good. Any questions about that? Great.
Great read.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right. Chief Dibley, come on down. We have one more to go before we can get Tom to wake up.
Tom wants to get home, so.
you know you yielded all your time, but
Yeah, I did, so I'll be brief. So, we're talking about the grant that we got from Maya for to purchase carbon monoxide detectors for the cruisers. As you can see in the parking lot, we bought a lot of Ford Explorer cruisers, and nationwide a problem came up. It was determined later to be from the outfitting of the cruisers, putting the lights on them, that allowed carbon monoxide to enter the cabin of the cruisers and effectively putting police officers to sleep while they're driving, which is not a good thing. So Maya came up with a grant to be able to purchase personal-sized CO detectors, the same that the firefighters use when they go into a fire, to make sure that there was no problems in the cabin. We put those in all the cruisers, and we continued along with that, using some more sensitive equipment the fire department had to test it and determine that most of our cruisers had no issues. We did recreate the problem in 3 of them, but we've since, with the DPW, changed the lighting systems that were on the back that was causing the problem. We're not having a problem now, but it was a grant provided by Maya so that we could purchase those devices and put them in each cruiser. We're keeping them in the cruisers anyway, just in case. They're good for 2 years, and we're going to leave them in there. But it was a big help because we did at first used the money out of our repair and maintenance budget for vehicles. We were able to return that money to the budget once with the Maya grant. So that's all I have for this. Other than we're still doing our state 911 grants, but those are not really a competitive grant. They're just money that's out there from the state 911 department to help us to cover the cost of dispatching. And that's all I have.
Anybody any questions or comments on that one?
Very cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Whoa, don't walk over. Don't.
Nice try.
Get down there. We're now up to appointment of special police officer.
Oh, I thought we were going to... Okay, that's good. I'm glad we're going to get that out of the way.
I'm taking it in order.
Sure,
We're done with
that's
all
good.
the grants now.
So, we have not had special police officers in Carver for quite some time. We have one, Walter Benoit. He's historically been here for a lot of years. A special police officer is somebody who's given police powers for a specific reason. In Carver, we use them to be able to assist in performing road details because we don't have a lot of police officers. Over the years, that number has diminished down to just the one, Walter Benoit, and we really haven't replenished that. We've been using out-of-town officers that come in when we can't fill it with our own officers. We can't fill details with our own officers. One of the biggest details is the King Richard's Fair that requires 10 police officers per day. So having a pool of police officers, not civil service full-time police officers, but police officers that can assist us in those jobs is very important. Officer Freddie Mello, our school resource officer, is about to retire on Friday. It will be his last day. One of the ways we come up with special police officers is by using retired police officers. So I'm here tonight to get your approval on when Freddie does retire on Friday, having him sworn in as a special police officer. That way he'll be able to return if he wants to do details or potentially help us out in some school security stuff as we move forward. So I'd just like to ask your permission to start that with Fred Mello. He's like I said, he's a fully trained police officer. He's worked for the past 14 years for the town of Carver and 28 years all total as a police officer. So having him remain in uniform and be able to perform some functions that our normal patrol officers wouldn't be doing, I think is a valuable tool. And that, I think, will start us on a program of starting to look into getting a few more special police officers that can also help us with those details. My thought process on that would be to look at people who are from other communities that have full-time police experience and be able to use them. So in the future, I'd like to come back to you with some other names that I've vetted and ask for the same things. My request would be for permission from the Board of Selectmen to have Officer Mello sworn in as a special police officer upon his retirement.
Before we take it up, he's willing to do it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yes, he is.
Comments? Someone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I second the motion. It's a terrific.
Okay, motion made and seconded to go ahead and, upon his retirement, appoint Officer Mello as a special police officer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Chief.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman, I think the chief's goal was to get somewhere around 4 to 6 special police officers, depending upon how this all shakes out. And if we can have, Carver residents that are trained in other communities that pass his vetting, it's better to have more local people come in for these details than it is for external where possible. So there is a process, as you said, trying to build this part of the force up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Walsh. Our EMS Director.
And now the meeting comes to a crawl.
Oh, stop.
Thank you, Ron. So good evening. As I indicated in my July 18th, 2018 memorandum to the Board of Selectmen, fiscal year 2018 was a very busy year for the Carver EMS service. We responded to over 1,600 requests for services, transported over 1,200 people to the hospital, and this was 90 patients more than we had done in fiscal year 17. Our revenues did exceed our expenditures by $48,000, and therefore we accomplished our objective of operating on a self-sufficient basis. However, we would have expected that with 90 more patients, the revenue might have gone up about $62,000, when in fact it only went up $14,000. Our per patient average collection rate, the total collected divided by the number of transports of patients you transported, went down from $624 to $574. Stated differently, if we had the same number of patients in fiscal year 2018 that we had in fiscal year 2017, in other words, we didn't have those 90 additional patients, we probably would not have covered our expenses that year. So our billing company was asked to figure out why this is happening, and came up with basically 4 reasons. First of all, it's been 6 years since we increased our rates in 2012. In 2012, when we increased our rates, 63% of our patients were either Medicare or Medicaid, and 28% had Blue Cross or private insurance. By 2018, now 76% of our patients are Medicare and Medicaid, and only 17% have Blue Cross or private insurance. Medicare has gone up an average of about 2% a year, and Medicaid hasn't gone up at all over that period of time. So in order to correct this issue, really the only arrow in our quiver we have, if you will, is to raise rates. So I'm requesting the selectmen to authorize the rates to be increased from Medicare plus 125%, as it is now, to Medicare plus 200%, which is the rates that some towns in this area are charging. Our billing company advises that this will still leave our rates kind of in the middle bracket, not in the highest 1/3 and not in the lowest 1/3. It should also be remembered that the elderly people covered by Medicare and the economically challenged by Medicaid do not pay any rates. But this does not affect them in any way whatsoever. Our healthcare system, by design, gives a discount to elderly and economically challenged people through the government plans of Medicare and Medicaid, and by design, private insurers have to pay more to make that up. So it's only the private insurers that are affected by this. So in order to continue to have the service operate on a self-sufficient basis with these numbers, and I would ask that the Board of Selectmen, if we want to keep it on a self-sufficient basis, adopt this recommendation so that town taxpayers continue to pay nothing for their ambulance service, and it remains on a fully self-sufficient basis. I also want to remind everyone that this is an excellent service that we're providing, and in a very cost-effective manner, utilizing per diem EMTs and paramedics. accomplishing full-time staffing without full-time personnel, creating no health insurance costs or fringe benefit costs for the town as a result of that. And this is truthfully just to cover our cost for a service that's being operated on a conservative, frugal basis. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, can I get a motion first before we discuss?
Make a motion to approve the recommendation to increase rates to 200%.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Now, questions, comments? Sarah?
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I just wanted to thank you, Tom, for explaining to the public how you run your department, because it is an awesome service with no cost to the town.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Mark?
As you and the billing company work together on this, the math works. This should keep us healthy if we vote this rate increase.
They've estimated that this should bring in additional between $50,000 and $70,000 additional dollars. Because we have to remember that 90 additional customers or patients that we transport, we may not have them this year.
That's what I meant.
I mean, it goes, general trend is to go up over time, but, it kind of ratchets its way up, and I don't want to get to a point where we're drawing down our reserve. We have an ambulance purchase coming up in fiscal year 2021.
Seems counterintuitive, but the healthier we are, the more it hurts the department.
Correct. But we have no shortage of sick people.
I guess it's been 6 years, and I go back, obviously, back to the early 90s when...
Right. When we used to bill at Medicare rates.
Yeah, exactly, and then we couldn't get the board to increase the rates for a number of years. And I think it should be pointed out that if we do have some folks that find themselves outside of Medicare or Medicaid, that we do work with everybody. If there's a financial challenge because of a bill, I know you work with the billing company to for those situations to make sure that everyone gets the services they need, and if we need to help them a little bit, then we do what we can to work with them.
Everyone gets the services they need without any question whatsoever. That's not even considered until after the call is over. We do have a collection policy. We're created with the town administrator and the treasurer at that time, and so that everyone, if they for some reason they don't pay, there's a process that we go through to make sure they understand that there are hardship things that they can request, and so we are doing that. Not to the extent that we used to do, that we write off everything, because that obviously was, those days are gone. But we do have a pretty liberal policy as far as what we write off for town residents, in my opinion, anyway.
And my understanding is the rate that we will charge to the private insurer is within the rate level that most of them will pay.
It should be, yes.
Yeah.
It should be.
Mark, anything? I'll just reiterate what Sarah said. It's great that you guys do a great service and you save the town a ton of money. The fact you haven't increased your rates in 6 years, I think, speaks very well. And let's face it, this time, this day and age, you finally reach a point where you got to go ahead and jack up the cost a little bit. But like you say, it's really only those that have private insurance that are going to see any impact of this anyway. Everybody that's in it, most of the people that are in the villages and things like that, they will not see it because they're either on Medicaid or Medicare, so.
And I think it's important to reiterate what Tom said, is that everybody gets the service. We're not checking to see what coverage they have before we respond to the emergency.
Not if we want to keep our license.
Anything else? Hearing nothing. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
I will entertain a motion to table the next item, which is the Pine Street right-of-way.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling the Pine Street right-of-way item, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Chapter 61A.
Is that a hearing?
I don't know, it just says chapter 61A.
Say it is.
Cobb
Do we have to
assessors.
wait until the
But they're
dedicated,
here.
designated time? No?
It's here.
Okay,
Just vote.
It's not a public hearing.
okay.
The
Just-
landowner's here.
Okay. Just trying to be politically correct, Sarah. You know me.
So out of character.
Always. Hey,
Ready?
you guys can
Yeah.
sit if you want to.
My name is David Delaney. I'm an attorney from Plymouth, and to my left is Eugene Cobb.
But you
who
do
is-
have to use the mic so that people at home can hear you.
I'll sit down. Mr. Cobb is the owner of land on South Meadow Road. A portion of that land is assessed under Chapter 61A, and he plans on using that portion to create a lot that's already been created and endorsed by the planning board to build a home. So in effect, he's converting some 61A land from agricultural, horticultural use to residential use. That procedure triggers the town's right to purchase that land if it so elects. In this case, there's no sale involved. It's simply Mr. Cobb taking land assessed under 61A, converting it to residential. So it's not, as in most cases, a right to meet the terms of a bona fide offer from some third party. Rather, it's a right to purchase that land at fair market value. That involves a series of appraisals and the town first, if it has an interest in purchasing. Mr. Cobb doesn't agree with the price, he can get it appraised. If they don't meet and agree on the value, you can get a third appraisal. It's kind of a complicated process. The whole exercise, from my perspective, is simply hoping the town has no interest in this sliver of land. It's one point.
You're just really looking for us to forego our right, give our right of first refusal for the property.
You have the option to decline or simply to do nothing. It goes away in 120 days. You have the right to exercise it.
Right.
We're asking you to decline.
Declined, yeah. Do I hear a motion?
Mr.
I have a question.
Well, let's do the motion, then we can ask questions. I'll make a motion to approve, to decline our option. Second.
Seconded. Discussion, Sarah.
Thanks. So you said there's no sale attached to this?
Mr. Cobb's not selling the lot to a third party. He's building his own home on the property.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's his own
That's all I
land,
wanted to know.
so.
Yeah. Okay.
My second and last.
Any other questions? Mr. Clark?
Normally, there's an attachment, we have a committee that sort of reviews these and signs off and says that we shouldn't.
It's in the packet.
I didn't see it, I just went through it, but.
Yep, they signed
I
off and
sent
said
one
no.
on I filed the notice of intent on the 16th and then filed a declination form about 4
Okay,
days.
that was all. We oftentimes look for that recommendation from our in-house committee, so if that's there,
It is there,
then I'm
yeah.
fine.
The only other question is too, we usually see a site plan of the area, so we kind of, and with a locus, so we can kind of figure out where this is. Could you just give us an idea?
Be in there too, shouldn't it?
I didn't see it.
It's not in our packet,
It's
no.
not in our packet anyway.
Sure, I was looking for one. Oh, yeah.
We have a description of it, Exhibit A.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's way out back. Lucky you. Okay, very nice.
So whereabout is it, Sarah?
So it's just in front of Pond Street. There's a bog road that goes behind some house lots on South Meadow. And then it's partially, it looks like, yeah, there's obviously enough upland there to build a house, so it's just it's a regular little, one of these old lots with the pork chop lots, I call them. Oh,
Do
sorry.
these guys all have to be notified that there's a house
That's a
going in
bog,
there?
I think.
That's all been done already.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they do that, yeah.
yeah. Great.
So that's great, thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I walk my dog back there sometimes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I hope you clean up after him.
Behind it's behind South Meadow Road. I don't,
This is it, right here?
it's not near you.
Little plug.
Oh, Ron.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of declining our option on this property, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Build away.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Second and last.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. And not only that, but we've gotten back on schedule again. Yay. All right.
We're efficient.
We are now up to the town administrator update, which is scheduled to start at 8:15. So we're 20 minutes ahead of time. Don't blow it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will make sure I don't. Just a couple updates. I believe at our next board meeting, we'll be having a solar agreement to bring in front of the board for approval, just as a heads up on that. As another heads up, the North Carver Route 44 development has submitted its draft environmental notification form. So that's out there for public review, a very extensive document that the redevelopment authority is in process of reviewing and submitting comments. Moving on to the FY19 state budget, as you know, we go forward and we prepare our budget forecast following our four-step budget process back in September and October for approval by the board, which gives us the forecast that we use to build all of the town department budgets off of. This year, we, working with the school department, the school administration, and knowing that last year that our forecast was about $30,000 over what the state actually ended up giving us, that this year we went back and level funded what we received in FY18, anticipating that we would at least have that same dollar amount in FY19. And again, that's just trying to be conservative, looking at the forecast of where the state's been coming in at. Unfortunately, what I have to provide right now is that the state actually, the town of Carver, is receiving a reduction in our state aid by $149,000 as you look at what we received in 2018. Again, $149,000. Last year it was $30,000. You know, we could work around that here with $149,000. It really leaves us two choices, and I've had a very brief conversation with our two finance people, both in the school and the town, and it's going to look like we're either going to have to reduce our budget by $149,000 or come up with additional sources of new revenue. Not a position that we anticipated being in, nor should we be in, but it is a fact. Just to give you a little perspective on this, when we look at revenue coming in from the state, this year the state increased our education funds. And there's a revenue side. So with the revenue side, I'm also going to talk about the assessment side. So the good news is they gave us $65,000 more for education. And now that $65,000 is on a base of $10 million. They gave us $140,000 more for general government, non-education, which is on a base of $1 million. And again, just giving you some comparisons there. So we're about $205,000, a little over $200,000 in new revenue coming into the town from what they have done here. Then when we start to look at what the assessments were, is after they give it, they take it. And it came into that for the education assessments, they went up. It went up by an additional $325, almost $350,000 this year compared to last year. Those are assessments that are in addition to what we received last year, and so. When you look at this, you got, you know, about $200,000 of new revenue, and then you have about $350,000 of assessments. That's how we get to about specifically $149,657,000 deficit, which is in our budget. And again, our budget was forecast upon this, which again leaves us to two choices. We can either cut our budget or we can find new revenue, but the budget's already been set and the revenue projections have already been set. So the administration on both the school and the town side will be working over the next few months to come back to a plan to submit to the school committee and to the Board of Selectmen this fall.
Michael, what
probably when we have our next joint meeting.
Sorry, what did you say the deficit was again?
$149,000, $657, yeah. 149,657.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to give you one more. So that's the reality. So we've got $150,000 we've got to cut or find new revenue for after the budget's already been done.
And passed by the town.
And passed by the town. And, you know, again, we don't know about this until the budget's finally been produced by the state.
Which is being produced, what, I think March 1st by law, it's supposed to be, the budget's supposed to be done, and our legislature gets to it by the end of July.
It's unbelievable.
That's correct. But I want to throw one other data point out to you, is that now, that $149,000 that's net to the town, if you look at just education, it's actually $206,000 less than what it was 2 years ago. But because the town received extra non-education money, it kind of offsets that until we get to 149. But here's the last stat that I'll give you, is that since we began keeping track, and you've all seen what's our net state aid, both on general government and school, is that in 2015, we received $9,550,000. That was our education, net education money we received.
That's after everything's been paid out.
Correct.
From what they're charging us.
This year, from the state, it's $9,150,000. So in 5 years, our net education aid has gone down $400,000. Now, you know, again, I'm not going to talk about numbers anymore, but, you know, as we have implemented our new financial plan model back 5 years ago, the town has been subsidizing this education cut out of reduced net Chapter 70 funds. In some towns, they say, well, whatever Chapter 70 is, we get. And when you have that happen, and you have a $400,000 cut, that goes right out of the school system. How we blend in Carver our education and our non-education money allows us to try to balance these ebbs and flows, or these peaks and valleys is what they're turning into be right now, with the education component. So again, we're bringing that to your attention. It's not news that we want to give. It's not news that was anticipated. We felt we had a very conservative budget when we went forward, but we have no control over this, and we're in the red by $150,000.
And I would bring to the attention of the board in your packet a letter dated July 23rd, 2018, to Alan Dunham, Chairman, and Carver Board of Selectmen. Chairman Dunham and members of the board, I want to make you aware of funds within the state budget for fiscal year 2019 that I was proud to have adopted in the Senate budget and upheld in the conference committee budget. $10,000 was allocated for the Carver Council on Aging. That's the good thing. But then he goes on, the 2019 budget also invests in cities and towns across the Commonwealth to strengthen local services and boost local aid for education, infrastructure, public safety, and other community needs. And then he goes on to say how much more money they've given us. And you're going to be hearing this in the press. You know, they're really going to tout. We've increased the money for local governments. We've increased the money for school. What they're not saying is how much more they're charging us for charter school, for extra education. They're charging us more than they're giving us on increases. To see that $400,000 increase in the last few years in the aid, and basically it's come out of our hides to go ahead and make that up to the school, because let's face it, the schools and the kids deserve a good education, and it's not their fault. So we've tried to soften the blow of these decreases. What I would like to see ready for my signature to go to Mr. Pacheco and to Susan Gifford is a letter thanking them so much for, notifying us about, these wonderful increases. However, then pointing out fully how much we're actually losing from these extra charges because the state's not doing their job, what they promised to do with education reform and everything else. And I would invite any other member of the board to sign that letter once it's written, who so desires.
I'm comfortable with that.
So am
Okay, you don't have to give me an answer now, but if you want to, that's fine. But especially when I saw this letter, it's very nice of the senator to send it out because, they, let us know that we've been getting they're giving all the towns and communities this extra money, but it's not really there. It's smoke and mirrors. And
He should look at the cherry sheet before he sends out these letters.
yeah, I mean,
See what
yes,
the actual net effect is.
$10,000, that's free and clear. We got that. That's a little grant. But this other, with how they're increasing the public, the funding above what it was, and then saying to boost the aid for education, infrastructure, public safety, and other community needs, when we're actually ending up with a big cut. I'm sorry, that just kind of goes up the wrong way on me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
could I ask Michael to explain for people who may not know what exactly the assessments are? Kind of one of those esoteric things,
Mr. Town Administrator.
because that's what's causing the problem.
Yeah, the relevant assessments that the chairman mentioned fall into two primary categories, and one is school choice sending tuition, which is when a student in our town goes to another town, another public education, and then there's charter school sending tuition. And just to give you the numbers here, the school choice sending tuition went up about $90,000 from 18 to 19. It was 43,000 and went up to 143. And the charter school sending tuition was at 603 and it went up to 743. So that's where you start to see some of the big changes.
Do we know from the school how many students that actually involve an increase?
Yes, Brad has looked at that today, and there's 3 different charter schools that they're sending students to, and we've looked at those, and we know 2 of them are correct, and 1 of them may be off by a couple students. So there may be some issue there, but it's you may say it may be a $20,000 swing, but we're still 150. So if it's 130, that's kind of the best case scenario.
What I'm trying to get at, did we see an increase of students taking part of this to justify that extra cost, or they just up the rate that we're having to pay?
No, there was an increase in students
departing
the Carver school system.
Okay.
There was a net increase of students departing the school system, which accounts for part of the assessments, why the assessments went up, as you mentioned.
I'll get off my soapbox now. Anybody else? All right. Sorry to you that I'm going to put you behind the power curve, Mr. Milanowski, but I'm sorry I had to get that off my chest because I am really upset about that. So, especially since it's out of our hands, we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Going on to the building projects, please.
Sure, our building projects are going along very well. The elementary school, as many people have seen, there's been demolition that's been started. That should be completed, I think, within 11 or 12 days from now. So that is on schedule today. And again, I emphasize today. It's on schedule today. It's coming down. We are scheduled to have the grand opening on August 29th. And right now, we're not experiencing any significant last-minute surprises, which is always good. There's a punch list that the teams are going through, and I think when people look at our school and figure out that we built it for $299 a square foot, and they look at the durability of our buildings, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised. I know there's been a few people that don't like the aesthetics on the outside of the building, but the committee was focused on making sure the building came in under budget, was durable the last 75 plus years, and had the right type of education environment. And the educators came back and felt that some of the facade components and the coloration were good for kids' stimulation, and that's why the colors are what they were. It wasn't necessarily a personal preference of any of the board members, it was more of a preference and direction from the educators on trying to stimulate education. So all around, it looks like a great success right there.
On that project, how are we doing with the contingency funds? Last I knew, the last time we were briefed, we'd use a very small percentage of that. Are we still on tap
So we
with that?
have, and again, to break up the contingency, there's unknown contingencies, there's changes in law contingencies, building code changes, and then there's owner directive contingencies. So from a change in law contingency, it's minuscule. It's thousandths of a percent. Nothing really changed there. From an unknown or error in emissions, it's also very small, well significantly orders of magnitude below what industry standards are. We are utilizing some of the additional funds in the project to upgrade some of the electronic infrastructure in the town, from the standpoint that by building this new school, we have a new clean room, if you will, for all of our town electronics, which is going to be the hub of the town. So we have done some change orders, again, owner driven, still within budget, to connect town hall, connect the middle high school, connect the library and the police stations and the new police station, so that all our data can go over there. So we've done some things like that, and then we've purchased some equipment that we normally would have purchased out of the capital outlay that would be used for doing some of the field maintenance out of this program. So,
But we're still ahead of the ballgame.
We're well ahead of the curve, and I think when people again look at the durability, the per square foot, and the minuscule change orders we have, it is an industry leader project in the state and in the region for what's been done. And we have a great team that's doing that, starting with Bill Harriman, who's, been kind of taking the lead on dealing with the weekly meetings, and plus just having a phenomenal project management team with PMI, and also with HMFH, which is our architects for the thing. So it's really a great example of a team approach that's doing something right for the right reason. So that's going on very well. Our middle high school field project, I believe that that field was leveled out the other day. We let it sit for a few weeks right now, and then the turf will come down later on in August to put down, and no major issues we have with that project either. Again, it's going very well.
Yeah, I stopped by there about at minimum every other week, because that one's in real easy. You can see how the progress is, and I've been very impressed with the progress they're making. They've got the crushed stone base, I think, pretty much all done now. And like you said, we're just waiting now probably to the field and then putting down the track. So they're making good progress on that.
They have the base coat is going in this Saturday for the track and the apron going around, so you'll see the asphalt going down to put that binder piece down there.
When is it scheduled to be completed?
The exact date escapes me right now, but I know
October, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was like October 11th or something like that, or 9th. What we did is the school reversed its season, so its first half of the season are all away games, the second half of the season are all home games, and so whatever that date is for that first home game, it'll be done by that time, and everything is ahead of schedule on that as well, and no major issues that we've had with that either. So again, that's going very well, and we've got a great team on there, and Dave Sigentoff was here. Dave is involved in every one of these projects, and John Woods is involved in this one too, and everyone's doing a great job. And then finally, we have our police station project. Again, Bill Harriman is kind of chairing that one up there, so we're really getting our money out of him, even though we're not paying him, but he's doing a great job with moving that along. We've selected the architect. They've been working with the police chief and his staff, and they're working on their program. Kind of just like the school had an education program, well, the police have to have a police program, and that police program then gets turned into the building. And we're very happy with the architect that we've hired, And we have the same project manager that we use for the fire station on this project, it's going along very well.
How does that tie into site selection?
So site selection is once that we get the development program completed, then they're going to mass the building as to exactly how many square feet is it going to be. Is it going to be 9, 10, 11, 12,000 square feet? What is the size that needs to be? And then once you have the size, then they'll look at some layout, and then they'll start placing those layouts hypothetically on different sites and figure out what site makes sense. And then we'll be coming to the Board of Selectmen to say, here's the site the committee has chosen, and we'll explain why. And then we'll ask for the board, since you're the steward of our public land on this town complex, to authorize the committee to go forward in one of those 3 locations, whatever they may be. So that's going along very well. Then we have our Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuge District, which is still a struggle. We put some numbers together earlier this month that if no changes are made and the district continues to operate 2 facilities, and we look at what some of the increased disposal costs are going to be in the future, we would need to have an annual budget of about $2.4 million to run that for the 3 towns. Obviously, and right now I think our town assessment is somewhere around $70,000 today. So obviously $70,000, which is our share of today's operating budget because it's being subsidized by Covanta, versus a future in 3 years of a $2.4 million project. Obviously those are different numbers with a different decimal point we would have to put in there. With that, the committee had a meeting last week, and we're going to be looking to make a recommendation to hire an individual to come in, and my anticipation is it'll be a part-time person to help kind of manage the district for the next 2 years while we continue to explore the different possibilities as to how to move forward. Clearly, with the $2.4 million operating budget, which is what it would be anticipated to be, that's not a realistic number. So the services or the facilities that currently exist are going to have to be modified in the future to get down to something that's more reasonable that the towns can afford to operate. I can't answer what that's going to be right now. That's something that the committee's going to have to look at. But you know, I think the town's been blessed for decades of having no disposal cost, tipping fees, so to speak. Right now, the market's in chaos, and it will be until the recyclable market gets figured out. So we're lucky at this point in time that we're not paying for disposal, but that day of reckoning is coming, and I'd like to continue to say this just because there is going to be a big change in the future that is just part of the natural, the contract ending and the South Carver landfill closing, which reduces Covanta's obligation to fund the 3 towns in its future disposal. That's all I have on that.
Question, are we getting to a point, any closer to a point where we can start freeing up the 3 town administrators so, you know, they're taking care of this, they don't have to devote so much of their time and energy into this project, and they can go back to more fully utilizing their efforts on the towns?
I'm having a meeting with the other 2 town administrators on Thursday, and we're hoping that time will be coming up in the next month or so.
Because I know the original was for 6 months, and I know we either exceeded or fast approaching to that 6 months.
Exceeded that by a little bit, but I think all of us want this thing to move forward. And let's face it, I mean, the communities have been accustomed to a certain disposal process, and that's going to change, and we need somebody that can spend more time focusing on educating everybody what those changes are going to be, because they are coming. There will be an increased cost, and that has to be dealt with on a more regular basis than us providing part-time assistance to fix the ship. There is, as we all know, there is litigation going on, and that process is underway as well. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more will be coming out on that down the road.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Robertson, anything you'd like to add as our representative to the district?
Yeah, no questions, but I will.
Microphone, please, sir.
No questions, but I will. To answer your question, will we need all 3 town administrators? My recommendation to the board would be not to have all 3 there at every meeting, but it'd be nice to have them check in on us maybe on a quarterly basis, but so their involvement will decrease substantially, but
well, I figured there's going to be a weaning off period.
It's really nice
where everybody's gotten used to them doing the bulk of the work, but they need to start stepping that down.
Yep. That's all I have.
Anything else? All right. Board of Selectmen update. Who would like to go first? Sarah. Ladies first.
Thank you. I have 3 things. One, I want to continue to remind folks about the Carver Farmers Market that happens every Sunday from 12 to 4 at Shirtliff Park, right across the street. It's a great way to buy local food and help local craft people. And it's run really well. There are usually things there for children as well. So please come and support your farmers market. Then I wanted to point out that the last day to vote absentee for the state primary, which will be held on September 4th, the last date to vote absentee for that primary is August 31st at 5 p.m. And my understanding is the registration deadline is August 15th at 5 p.m. So I want everyone to be aware of that. The final thing is, and I want to hand this out to you guys. Just a quick refresher. This started, I think, back in December, and then in March, I finally submitted the application to the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, which is part of the U.S. Geological Survey, requesting that they name the small perennial stream on the town-owned land, otherwise known as the coal property, after Robert Bob Grumpy Conway, that they name it Grumpy's Brook. And so this went through quite a process. I know this board had to vote on it, the county commissioners had to vote on it, and our own state, I forget his title, but he's in charge of naming things, geographical names in the state, also had to approve it. So I received a letter on June 28th from the U.S. Board on Geographic Names. It says, "We are pleased to inform you that the U.S. Board on Geographic Names has approved your proposal to apply the new name Grumpy's Brook to a stream in the town of Carver in Plymouth County." And then it gives a description of the latitude and longitude, description of the brook. It's about 1/8 of a mile long, and it is one of the headwaters of the Winnetoxet River, which is one of the main tributaries to the Taunton River. So I've been working with Grumpy's sister, who happens to live in Wareham, and she requested that we try to get a bench and some sort of plaque or marker there. And so I talked with some people at SERPED recently. I'm going to try for one of their grants to do that. So we're not having a ceremony just yet. Everything takes time. But I wanted you all to know that this had happened. It's a very nice, happy thing. And that I'm still working on finding a way to pay for a little bit of accessibility for people. They can sit and meditate, whatever one wants to do there. And I'll keep you posted on when we'll probably have some sort of little event there to celebrate the occasion.
Okay, yes, please do.
I will. Yep. Thanks.
Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody that took part in Old Home Day and helped put that on last Saturday. It's truly one of the things that I think makes Carver special, and it's just a wonderful event, so thank you. I want to congratulate the new chairman and vice chairman of the Finance Committee, Alan Germain and Kate Banzel. Having recently served on the Finance Committee for quite a while, I know how much work it takes, so I appreciate both of them stepping up. And I just want to mention Carver Night Out is coming up on August 9th from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Middle High School. It's another great event here, and I want to encourage everyone to come out and take part. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Robertson.
I have been having selectmen hours, which have been tremendous response to that. There's 7 crickets in the room I've named personally, and I've gone through 7 cups of coffee waiting, but I am going to try this one more week. It'll be this Friday at 8 o'clock, and if anybody has any comments or anything at all they'd like to talk to, come on in and join me and my 7 crickets, 'cause it's that's all I have, Al.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I had just a couple of things. One was I've been spending some time thinking about our own Carver police force in light of the 3 shootings that have taken place recently, one resulting in the death of a Weymouth police officer, which really hit home because it took place in the street I grew up on, which was just stunning. You know, you hear these things, and all of a sudden I saw it mentioned Burton Terrace, which is the street, you know, I lived on, and it just brings it home. And so I've been thinking about the Carver police force and what all police officers are faced with. And it haunts me that this Weymouth policeman, because of all the publicity out there with, you know, and I talked to Chief Dufley about this. Sometimes a police officer might make a mistake, but the grilling that they take on social media and that the police have taken, if this officer hesitated for 1 second out of fear that I don't want to expose myself to that, you know, I just hope the Carver Police Force knows that we trust them to exercise appropriate judgment, and that they don't want to shoot to kill, but they have to make sure that they protect themselves, us, and their fellow officers. So I just want them to know I've been thinking of them and fully support them, and recognize, I think we all recognize, the job that they have is not easy. And those split-second decisions, I wouldn't want to trade places with them. So that, you know, I just want to let them know that I've been thinking of them and supporting them.
Great comment.
And I learned from Representative Gifford today that the House has passed a version of the senior tax relief bill that reads almost identical to the one that we submitted for our home rule petition. The Senate has not passed it as of yet. I understand they'll be going to about midnight tonight before wrapping up their session. So it remains to be seen as to whether the Senate ends up also passing that. My fear is that the Senate will end up not passing it, but that the legislature stopped moving on our home rule petition, which had a hearing, because they figured that it was going to be a state senior tax relief that was going to be, you know, have an income test associated with it, just like ours did. And so when we get to tomorrow, we have neither our home rule petition nor a statewide senior tax relief, and, you know, haven't really moved forward. However, it appears that there at least is some momentum building, so I would be surprised if it doesn't happen in this legislative session that we don't get that passed early on in the next session from the looks of it. So that's the update there. And then I was also going to mention Carver Night Out, because it's a great time. My grandkids come and it's the best time. And they are looking for dunk tank volunteers, Alan. And your name has come up repeatedly, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that your talents are being sought, and there's actually a wide request from a wide number of constituents that the chairman of the board be up there. So just wanted to pass that on.
Can we make a motion?
No, you may not. On that, the Carver Night Out, because I also was going to bring it up. I have been in the dunk tank for the last 3 years, and I was told, oh, the police going to do it too. Well, he finally did do it last year. I've yet to see any other member of the Board of Selectmen step forward to this. In fact, one member says, I have to stay with my grandchildren. So he's hiding behind 2 little kids so he doesn't have to go ahead and go in the dunk tank. Mr. Clark.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right, okay. But I too would urge everybody to go out there, and it's a chance to not only see some of the equipment our emergency services use, but especially with all that, as Mr. Clark said, that's been going on, it's a chance to go ahead and just shake the hand and thank the members of the police department, fire department, and EMS, because believe me, they're not doing it for the money. Those are not the best, highest paid jobs. They put themselves in great danger for us, and sometimes you'd be surprised what a thank you will do. Something that simple, just a handshake and a thank you, will really make them feel better. So I really urge everyone to go out there. Also, I saw an interesting thing, and it really struck me, was that people needing, hunger doesn't stop for the summer. We think of it during the winter and during the holidays, but it goes on year round. So Shane gives thanks, think of that, because they still need donations all year long, not just during the holidays. So if you got some extra money or some extra food you can donate, I think it'd be really good to go down to Carver Square and donate to Shane Gives Thanks. And that's all I have. So moving on, we need to vote to accept the warrant for 2018 state primary election. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. I believe the sample ballots are available in the town clerk's office. People want to go down and see it, because there are two ballots, one for the Republican side and one for the Democratic side. All right, seeing nobody else grabbing their microphones to be heard nice and clear over area 58, channel 15 cable television. All those in favor of approving the ballot for the state primary election, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 400. Approved.
Would it be 401?
401.
Or you don't count a recusal?
No, recusal, because we do this every time, and I think I've gotten yelled at for doing 401. So I'm going to put it 400 and see if I get yelled at again.
Okay.
She didn't abstain. She recused herself.
Right.
Okay.
Big difference. All right. We have a request for permission from Serped to use a drone over the town of Carver to conduct aerial photography.
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion.
What is it for?
Yeah,
I'd like to know what
it
they're
would
doing.
be nice. I mean, I trust Serped. They're our regional planning agency, but I wish we had someone explaining it to us.
Yeah, it would have been nice. All we have is a little bit here.
Is this recording? Is it taking pictures and
It says to
documenting?
highlight important transportation facilities, issues with those facilities, and the facilities that generate traffic.
Yeah, that's what Serped. That's one of the things Serped does.
Yeah.
So
And
they'll be looking at
conducting this work
intersections.
safely is paramount, and they welcome the opportunity to coordinate with police, fire, DPW, regional airports.
Yeah.
So what the region has done before is we have flights go over to do the GIS system and create the GIS maps, but that's done at a higher altitude.
Right.
These are really focused on, as they're saying, for, high volume or hazards and mitigation risk, really to focus on infrastructure type things, where there's high focus, where they can get a lower drone to actually provide better detail. Kind of what you saw with the police, with the fire department, when they would show the elementary school, is getting to those types of buildings where you can have that type of quality that's in there.
Guess I should have read that document, huh?
Any other discussion?
Well, I was just going to say maybe we could vote on it now and then just at least ask them to come back at some point so that they can elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure who would come.
We can ask.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Don't we have a Serped representative?
Who asked?
Okay. So, using that, we're going to do that tech. All those in favor of allowing Serped to use the drones, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. All right. A request to place yellow ribbons on light posts as part of the Gold program. Dave, you know something about this?
No.
No?
I do not.
There's a sheet in there, I think it's in support of children who are cancer patients.
Yeah.
But that's all I know.
And I believe they have a couple of fundraisers coming up in
Yep.
September.
And the ribbons just to remind
I think
everybody.
this is probably in conjunction with that, but
Yep. I think it's
Yeah,
a
we
great
have
idea.
we have a letter in our packet requesting this.
Yep. I'll make a motion. That's a good idea.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to have this go forward. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor of allowing the yellow ribbons to go in support of the Go Gold
Yep.
program, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Okay, we have need to fill a Recreation Committee appointment to the Community Preservation Committee. Basically, somebody from the Rec Committee has to be appointed to the Conservation.
No, to the Community Preservation.
Yeah, Community Preservation Committee, CPC. And it's being, we're being asked to go ahead and appoint Mary Ross from the Recreation Committee for this appointment.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Discussion.
It's a great
Mary's being a
idea.
rep for the last time her term
Yeah.
came up, so it's a reappointment.
Yep.
Hearing none, those in favor of reappointing Mary Ross to the Community Preservation Committee as the Recreation Committee representative, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Common particular license applications from JJ's Sunday Express. I see nobody here representing them. Again, I understand they were not here at the last meeting that I wasn't here at. What is the pleasure of the board?
I think it'd be nice to have somebody to explain what it's about.
I think so too.
Is this the ice cream truck that's up at the?
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I think
And
it
aren't they
is.
currently functioning in?
They've since stopped for a while when we first told them that, oh, by the way, you need a license. And I guess there's a little bit of consternation on their part about having to do it, then some question whether they, people think they need it or not. And so that's why I would say,
Well, if
my druthers, and it'll be up to the board, would be we take no action on this until they decide to come before us.
Yeah.
I would agree with
Okay
that.
with that.
Okay, can I have a motion to go ahead
Motion.
and
So
table
moved.
this?
Yep.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did we miss the Shirtlift Park?
Yes, we did.
Oh, yes, by the Crossroad Church. I'm sorry. We have a request to use Shirtlift Park, October 31st, noon to 8 p.m. by the Crossroad Church.
Yep. So moved. That's
What
a
day
good
of the
church.
week is that? What day of the week is that?
doesn't say to waive the fee.
The 31st, I don't have.
Hold on a second.
Doesn't ask to waive the fee, did it?
No, but in the past, I think we may have done that for a church.
October 31st is a Wednesday.
Okay.
It's a trunk or treat Halloween event.
Yeah, we've waived it for them before.
I think that would be a good idea to waive the fee.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Just
Hey,
didn't
can I
ask
have
for
a
it.
not-
motion
because
to-
Make a motion to approve and waive the fee.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve and waive the fee. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of granting the use of Shirtlift Park on October 31st by the Crossroad Church, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. All right. Next up is minutes license topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We don't have any minutes. Those will be at our next meeting. And I'm not going to vote on them anyway because I wasn't here, but for you guys. We do have the appointment of election officers, and we have an addition requested by the clerk, Lynn Doyle, Patricia Marie Latino, 52-5 South Meadow Village, to be added to the list. And I'm not going to read off all the other names because they are available with the packet that's on the town website. So if anybody really wants to know who all these people are, You can go to the website to go ahead and see that. So I entertain a motion to...
Motion to approve.
Second.
And second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. And I don't even see a hint of needing a executive session tonight.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, at the bottom of my packet, I see an extra application to appoint someone to the Agricultural Commission.
I see that as well.
Jen Van Duisen.
Just before the election officers.
I don't have that.
See, it's written in ink.
No, that's oh, you're right. That was the other thing that was within the 48 hours notice. That's Jen Van Dusen to go. She is the alternate right now for the Ag Commission. One of the members retired, resigned, and as opposed to, since we have an alternate already, we've approached her. She is willing to take the position. We'll go ahead and we're going to recommend that she be put on the Ag Commission, and then we'll go ahead and take applications for people that want to go and to become alternates.
So she's willing to move up to the...
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to do so.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Jen Van Dusen to the Agricultural Commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next meeting will be September 4th. We're kind of taking the whole month of August off. I believe the school committee does the same thing. Then after that...
That is the primary election day.
I noticed that as well.
How is it?
Yeah.
That's the primary election day, Mr. Milanowski. We'll have to come up with another day.
We don't usually meet on election day.
I agree with that.
All right, we will be looking at a different day. We'll be sending out an email to make sure everybody can attend. We'll make sure Mr. Clark isn't off doing his job that he got after retirement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make
It
a
won't
motion to
interfere
adjourn.
with Mr. Robertson because, as he's been telling us, he's celebrating 1 year of retirement today, so he's got lots of time on
Buy a
his
new
hands.
car?
With all that, before we get carried on too much, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.